Now, on the theme of the deductible gap, which we talked a little bit about in keynote this morning, another area where we saw a significant amount of growth was around employer adoption of voluntary benefits. On average, the adoption of voluntary benefits on the platform increased 31% year over year. But there was a group of employers offering 3 or more voluntary benefits, and that group actually increased 88% year over year. What do you think is driving that shift, Jeff?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One is people are doing the math around, okay, if my deductible is $5,000 and my employer is contributing $1,000 and I'm contributing $1,000, you know, there's that $3,000 delta there. I think too, there's been these benefits around for quite some time, critical illness and accident and hospital indemnity. They're fine benefits, but they required you to be in a cafeteria and sit next to an insurance agent and enroll in these benefits and or get a call at home. And I think millennials are a great example to where if you can just take these benefits, if you can simplify them, make them intuitive, you can bundle them with medical so that people readily understand if I'm going to take more risk on the CDHP, then I'm going to use these products for any kind of catastrophic kind of risk that may be applicable, so that way I don't have to blow through my HSA. I think a lot of employers are getting that. They're definitely understanding that benefits like CI and HI and accident and a CDHP plan, because these employees don't have savings, adequate savings, they've got to have some kind of nest egg through these different coverages.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about, you know, that it's very encouraging that there was an increase in those contributions, but there's still a huge gap.
Huge.
You know, and these offers really allow employees that extra protection that I think is really needed, as we've seen the math. So,
you know, that's a great segue. We could spend a little bit of time here. Retail employees in general, we actually saw a significant increase in the number of retail employees who embraced voluntary benefits. So, to orient you to the slide, in 2016. 78% of employees did not select a voluntary benefit during open enrollment, which means 22% did. In 2017, 39% of employees selected at least one voluntary benefit, and there was a group of 11% of retail employees who actually enrolled in 3 voluntary benefits. When you think about these new offerings, Jessica, what's the best way to present these to employees?
I think a lot of what, you know, Jeff talked about earlier about, you know, it used to be pretty high pressure sales. You had somebody that wanted to come and sit down and have a conversation. You weren't necessarily there with your spouse or your parent or your other partner to have a conversation. And so having that opportunity to have it in the enrollment experience, as at their pace, being able to walk through and have those in the moment nuggets of information, what does this mean to me, I think is really beneficial for folks, and it takes out the pressure, but educates them in little bite-sized chunks that helps them to make a good decision for their overall paycheck. And I also think seeing that shopping cart and seeing how much it's going to cost out of your paycheck, it is helpful for them, because if you see a annual number, it's a little scary, but when you break it down and say, this is how much coming out of my paycheck, they tend to be able to accept it more and latch on to these products.
And as you think about your benefit strategy across the next I'm sorry, Jeff, did I just talk on top of you?
I get that a lot.
It wouldn't be the first time.
No, that's okay. I'm good.
Fire away.
No, I was just thinking, you know, just sort of the analogy of, if you have, in retail in particular, obviously these folks aren't as paid as well as maybe particularly other industries. But if you have these employees that are electing CDHPs, and again, they're contributing minimally to their HSA or $1,000, and you don't offer these kinds of benefits to protect them against unforeseen illnesses or accidents, it's probably like buying a beach house and buying home insurance but not flood insurance. I mean, you really have to prepare yourself for something catastrophic in a CDHP, which in a PPO you don't even have to think about that much. So I can definitely see this number increasing as HSAs and CDHPs increase as well.
And knowing how many millennials make up retail, you know, this to me is yet another trend that's really interesting. Maybe some risk aversion behavior and adoption of these benefits. That's really just, like I said, like you said, can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to watch.
I think in that risk aversion space, millennials are also seeing a much larger percentage of parents and grandparents retiring or not being able to retire because they have no income. They don't have that defined benefit plan to fall back on. And so I think they are kind of swinging the pendulum back and being more cautious, which is a great thing and helps them to prepare for the future.